Hello everyone and welcome to this week's video. Today we have another very damaged Polly Pocket case. Down here at the base you can see the original color of this toy and what we will try to revert back to today. Today in terms of video, because for me it's been like a month of trying different things, so get ready for some huge failures. But I wanted to try a few new techniques and no risk, no gain, I guess. Luckily this is quite a common Polly Pocket case, but I don't want to spoil the surprise yet. Alright, so our goal for this vintage Polly Pocket, and I know you're going to say, what vintage? 1991 is not vintage, but I am very sorry to tell you that if something is more than 20 years old, it is considered vintage. If you find this somewhat offensive, don't worry, you're not alone, and if this is vintage, I am ancient. But let's talk a little bit about what is happening here. My goal for this first technique, we're going to have two of them, spoilers, this one will fail, is to use peroxide steam, if that's a thing. Now, my concern is that there is this little paper piece inside that could get affected by the steam if it goes into the case. So, a workaround I came up with, supposedly, was to use this double-sided tape and make sure the case remains closed. And I have to say that so far I was feeling very confident, like, this is genius. Foolproof method, I will revolutionize the world of Polly Pocket restoration. No, why? Many reasons, but the first one is one you have probably noticed already, and it's that this double-sided tape is very powerful, but it's also very thick, which means that the case is not going to close properly. But for the moment I was quite sure brute force would do the trick, so I cut off all the extras and made sure that I left no holes, so the case would stay closed as it goes into the first peroxide treatment. Now, how would I do this differently if I could do it again? I think the key is, well, if possible, to use thinner double-sided tape or some other kind of material. I try with cling film, you will see in the near future. But what's important is, I guess, to keep this, what do you call it, hide, away from the hinges, because that's where the case obviously needs to close. But anyway, you might find this useful, hopefully. Let's go to the next step. Once I had closed the case, what I wanted to do was, instead of applying the cream to the case, which can lead to bleaching in some cases, the one we did before worked well, but it's kind of a roulette, you never know what you're going to get, and I wanted something that was a bit more well, safer. And the other technique lots of people use for RetroBrighting is to submerge the case, but as I said, in this case I don't want the cardboard inside to get affected. So I saw a video, I will leave the link in the description, where someone was actually using like a foundation of liquid peroxide at the bottom of a closed container, and the steam was the one that was actually cleaning, de-yellowing the toy. So I thought it would be a good idea to try this, and I'm going to mix water with peroxide. I think what happened in this first attempt is that I used too much water, and or the peroxide was too weak, it was only 3%. But let's not jump ahead. Let me show you how I finish this part of the process, as I add the peroxide, mix a little bit, and send my container to the UV chamber. Please don't judge my kitchen floor or my trousers. This is the UV lamp I used. Although I do have LEDs inside the box, I don't normally turn those on because the lamp turns to be enough. So let's close this up and give it a few hours. Please excuse the weird shadows. This was a very sunny day, miracle here in the UK. So as you can see, this didn't really work. Now, I wasn't sure at this point, was it because of the water, was it because of the volume, was it just the general technique that wasn't working? And my best guess was, because I couldn't see many bubbles when I was looking at this as it was happening, that it was probably just the intensity of the liquid. So I made an executive decision and I used stronger peroxide, and I also tried to glue the case to the top of the container because I figured I wanted more light to go on the top of the case. You can see by my tone that all of this took a very long time, and the result was the worst thing that could happen. But let me quickly show you what I mean by this technique. As you can see here, the lamp is on the ground, on the floor, facing up, and then we have the container with the case floating within it. Now remember, this is much stronger peroxide, the light is also much closer, and the temperature is much higher. Here is Bruno making an absolute mess. Now, all that bleaching I was trying to avoid by not using the cream exploded and completely ruined the case, which is not only bleached, but it's also cracked now. I cooked the case to oblivion. So for the moment, let's leave this one separate and work on the minifix. Okay, so the next step is quite a short one. Just like we did before, we're going to use some broken Polly Pocket bases without arms, and we're going to recreate them with green stuff. One of the advantages of green stuff is that it attaches itself to the plastic really well, and it dries really strong. So then you can like sandpaper it and paint it, and it looks almost like the real thing. So let's go ahead and do that while I tell you a little bit about this Polly Pocket set, because this will be very relevant for the next section when we actually recreate the little furniture pieces that came with the set. So this set, when it came out in 1991, was called Polly's Grand Piano Ring and Ring Case. So it's actually a ring case, I should have mentioned that before. And it was made by Bluebirds originally. Then it was recreated or re-released by Mattel, and then it was called Perfect Piano Recital Ring and Case. Now the inside, as we have seen, has a podium with a microphone, there is an audience in the back, and some beautiful pink curtains or fuchsia curtains. And the set came with a few little accessories or pieces. Of course, it had the Polly with short curly blonde hair and a black tuxedo, very elegant. And the other pieces were a piano, a parrot, a vase, oh, I don't know how to say that, and a ring. Alright, so for the pieces, this you can sometimes find online, but you have to be lucky to find all of them. And also they tend to be quite expensive. So alternatively, we're going to 3D print them, which means that we also have to 3D design them. To do this, I use Blender. Blender is a free 3D software, and then I'm going to use my Elegoo 3D printer, which was gifted to me by the company very kindly, to print them. And then we're going to paint them with acrylic paints. So I will leave you with some music for this little bit, and I will see you for the next section, which is the actual printing of the pieces. Enjoy! took me a while to design all the pieces. I wanted to make sure I have the measurements right. They're not an exact copy of the original. Not that it would happen, but I wouldn't want them to get confused with the actual toys. So just in case you're not familiar with the 3D printing process, basically you design the 3D, like I said, I use Blender, which is free. Then you export it into a slicing program that turns the 3D designs into little slices for the printer to understand. The little graphic we saw before with all the dots, the white dots, that's where the material is and where the printer needs to create the shape. And then you need to cure the parts first. Well, first you put them in alcohol to remove all the extra resin, and then you cure them with UV light. And then all you need to do is remove all of these little pillars and aids, and you have your figures. Luckily, most of this is done automatic by the program, all of these pillars and all these extras, and even the position of the pieces. So most of the times it just works like out of the box, which is amazing. And as you can see, the detail is quite good. Just remember, these are tiny pieces, and you can barely see the lines. You can kind of see them in the piano, but I think that was mostly my fault because of how I positioned it when it was printing. But you can always file and sandpaper and get them to look absolutely smooth and perfect, which, as you know, because I am a very anxious person, I'm not going to do to the degree I should have. Both the 3D printed resin or the cured resin and the green stuff are very easy to work with, very easy to break also. Well, not the green stuff. The green stuff is amazing. It's, I don't know, some alien technology. It's flexible and it's super sticky to the plastic, like I said. The resin, you have to be more careful. It's lots of people, what they do is, if you want something that is more resistant, you 3D print the piece and then make a mold and use a different material to have a very strong piece. I hope all of this makes sense. 3D printing is a lot of fun. 3D designing is also a lot of fun. I should take some courses because I'm not very good at it, but I really enjoy it, and it's incredible that you can like create all of these little figures out of nowhere practically. And it's also quite like cost effective, and I don't know how much I spent, but the bottle of resin here is about £20, and you can print, I don't know, 1,000 minis at least with that bottle. So yeah, not bad. And it's finally time to paint the pieces. I thought this was going to be quite a quick process. It turned out to be a bit longer than I expected because there are lots of different colors. Still, a lot of fun to paint small things. When you look at them, you think, how am I going to like reach these areas and not make a mess? But like I usually say with the ponies, it's very easy to revert what you have done. If you have made a mistake, you just use some water to clean the mistake and then redo it. So very, very generous materials, acrylics and water, I guess. Oh my god, don't let me start rumbling. I will leave you with a little more music for the painting part, and I will see you when we go back to the case, a second case, to try to fix our previous problems. Now that the paint and the pieces are done, it's time to work on the case again. And luckily I found this other one that has almost exactly the same problem. The base has the original color and then everything else is yellowed or brownish. Now, as a quick reminder of my failure, here is the other case. Now, don't worry, because we are going to go back to this one. What I plan on doing is actually try some airbrushing, which should take care of all these differences, and it's something that you might be able to also do in the future for other cases. As you can see here, I did try to sandpaper it to see if I could find the original color underneath, but this was not the case. It's fried all the way through. I promise we'll fix it though. So here's a quick side-by-side view of our two victim cases. And what I'm going to do next is actually do a hydrogen peroxide bath. The reason I didn't want to do this with the first one was the cardboard inside. However, if you look at this case, the cardboard is already damaged, which is absolutely an excuse. I do take responsibility for all of these experiments, but I hope something positive comes out of them. So what I'm doing here is filling some Ziploc bags with water, and then I'm going to add some liquid peroxide to them. Now we have the 12% solution and the 3% solution. I think we are going to go with the 3% because I'm very scared of bleaching this one too. And once that is all filled up, all we need to do is put the case inside, make sure all the air bubbles are out, because ideally we want the case to be completely submerged in the liquid, and then we just put it in the UV chamber. I'm not going to open the bag while it's in here because we want all of those fumes. We will, however, rotate the bag occasionally and we'll leave this in for, let's start with 24 or 48 hours. But before we do that, I've got some exciting news, at least in terms of what it means to me. Like, personally, the Patreon is back. I feel like I'm in a good space now to be able to take care of that, and I hope to, in the next days and weeks and months, to upload lots of original content there, like the little things that YouTube might not like completely, like the algorithm. So if you are interested, of course, no obligation, you can join us there, and the Discord is also back online. And yeah, you can ask me questions there or anything you need. So thank you so much to all the patrons that allow me to do this beautiful hobby, and let's see the results. Okay, so let's take a look at our little case before. This is case number 2, by the way. And now the after. And this is what it looks like after being submerged in hydrogen for about 4 days. I used a very low volume one. I also repainted the logo in silver, and here's what it looks like with the minifigs. I actually quite like the look of these. I think the colors, although they're not the real ones or the original ones, they work okay with the case. Here is the side-by-side comparison of the first case and case number 2. Remember, we're gonna go back to the first one. And we're gonna close the video with some more close-ups of the figures. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know your thoughts, ideas and critiques. And I have a couple of other Polly Pockets that we could work on, so hopefully there will be more. See you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great week.